Hello there, everyone. It's been a while, I know. Life has been keeping me a bit more busy than usual with graduate school and work going on. But new year, new me, you know, whatever cliche they say. I'd like to return to making some content here on YouTube, so good for you. I've got some interesting things to show you. A couple years back, a Canadian Sheik player with the tag Captain L made a guide on how to create a modded GameCube controller, which allows for special capabilities for training purposes. Capabilities that things like the Jujia training mod can't exactly follow, which is input recording or output manipulation for a GameCube controller. Captain L has posted a video which is still on YouTube. I will leave a link to his guide in the description, so feel free to check him out. Essentially for this project, you'll be using a functional GameCube controller, a GameCube extension cable wire, a logic converter, and a Arduino Nano. When you open this GameCube controller extension cable, you'll notice that there are some extra cables inside, color-coded to serve different purposes, such as power, ground, and the actual data signal that tells the Switch what buttons you're pressing. Inside of each of those wires is bonded wires, and when soldering those together, you'll be able to connect them to pins and put them onto a breadboard. It was a bit of a tedious process, but it shouldn't take you more than maybe a couple hours to at least put the thing together. It was honestly not too frustrating. Maybe had a couple mishaps when soldering, but at the end of the day, was able to get it working. After soldering it together, I did some connectivity tests just to make sure that it was connected properly, and I then added some shrink tube to cover the exposed wire after the whole soldering process. Again, by following the guide and wiring it together as described, it was pretty much ready to go at that point. One thing that held me back was you actually need to be using an official GameCube adapter on your Switch. I was using a third-party one and it wasn't working. There's also one named Mayflash that might be functional with it, but I would recommend using a official Nintendo adapter. Now allow me to perform a bit of a demonstration with this to show how it works. Let's just say there's a character that you're struggling to deal with, or a matchup that you want to look more into. Let's just say Rob versus Richter, for example. So I'm going to, it doesn't matter which one you choose actually. You can make Richter the CPU and Rob player 1. It doesn't really matter. It's just your player 1 will have whatever controls you set it to, but the CPU will always have default controls, which includes tap jump and C-stick, of course. So, essentially, once the script is uploaded, you'll be able to... Once you upload a script that's capable of recording input, you'll be able to, like I said, input a sequence of button presses, and it will be played back, roughly accurate. There's some constraints. I'm still kind of working on optimizing it myself. There's a bit of a trade-off where the shorter the recording is, the more accurate it is. If you want to record for like longer, then it might be a bit less accurate. The one that I've written has about 5 seconds of input recording. So in order for this to work, you have to set the CPU to control. So now I should be able to have control. Let me see if I plugged it in. Oh, I don't think nope. I plug it in. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. So I have this guy working, the controller. So let's just say I do a bunch of random inputs, let's just say. So in order for this to work, I press down on the D-pad and it will start recording mode. So there's actually 3 LEDs that I've placed on the board for debugging purposes. I have 3 modes. There is a recording mode, a single playback mode, and a repeat playback mode. So if I press down on the D-pad, which will give Rob his down taunt, it'll wait a little bit over a couple seconds and start recording. When it starts recording, you'll see the light flash red. So anything that I do while the light is red will be recorded. So the forward air, up air, down smash I just did, well, it's recorded onto the microcontroller. Now, if I press up on the D-pad, a green light will flash, and it will play back my recording once. So it's splash green. And so he does the exact sequence that I had just input. And every time I press up on the D-pad, it will play through it once. And the third mode that I've added is a repeat playback. If I press left on the D-pad, the blue LED will turn on, and it will repeat the sequence that I've recorded until I tell it to stop by pressing right on the D-pad, like that. So, pretty cool. You can modify the script to change how long I'd like it to record, things like that. There's some other capabilities that I haven't even programmed onto it yet. But that's just some of the basic things that you can do with it and mess around on your own. Again, if you'd like to see me make a more... So one of the other problems with the guide is that it doesn't really mention much in terms of the script or software or programming side. It just kind of tells you, hey, get all these supplies, put it all together, and then upload the script and run it. Which was one of the reasons why I couldn't really tell that not using an official GameCube adapter was the problem, because I was not told that in the guide. So if you're interested in pursuing this project and you have it built together, and you're interested in me creating a guide on how to make scripts for this, or just showing some of my scripts that I've written for this, go ahead and let me know in the description if you'd like to see something like that. Because again, they kind of just leave it up to you to write all these. I couldn't even find an input recording one script, even though it talked about it in the video. I just had to make it myself. So, you know, let's just say you're having a hard time dealing with Rob Nair, right? So I can just go ahead and record Rob doing Nair like this. And then just have him play it on repeat and try to punish it as Belmont. You know, this. And just he'll do that every time. He'll just jump, land with Nair, and then shield. And so you can kind of just figure out how you want to go about parrying it or punishing it, etc. So just something to kind of mess around with. And, you know, in order to practice, what should I be doing against this move, for example? And how to kind of space yourself. You can make it do something like DI, for example, or SDIing, things like that. Let's just say I want to make Richter do a certain input sequence. So in that case, I will disconnect my Player 1 controller and set the GameCube controller to have control over Richter and the Pro controller to have control over Rob. So maybe I want to know about some of the ways that Rob can punish Belmont if he does a certain sequence as well. So I'm going to go ahead and record Richter doing a sequence of moves and see how Rob can approach. Let's just say he's trying to approach.
Prepare yourself.
Okay, so something like that. Have him do F tilt into retreating back air and see how I, as Rob, am able to punish this potentially. So you can see if Belmont spaces properly, like this, Rob isn't able to get the forward air. But if he misspaces, that F tilt option isn't available to him anymore. Let's just say I have Belmont do something else. Let's just say instead I want him to do F tilt run away and F tilt again, something like that.
Prepare yourself.
Make him hold shield after. And again, I can just put this on replay. So if I try doing the fair method that I did earlier out of shield, it might not work as easily if he's grounded. Especially if I'm facing behind him, it doesn't work. So I could also catch him running away, it looks like. Only if he's close enough to me. So at least what this will teach you is, it basically is just telling you to space your shit. Because if you don't space that F tilt properly, that run away and that jump away option is not available to you. In fact, I don't know if he could punish it true, but let's see. Let's see, can Rob punish it true? I could go look it up on Ultimate Frame Data, but if I, you know, I could also just have a recording and have him do it himself. Do F tilt and then shield, so.
Prepare yourself.
F tilt buffer shield. Let's just have it replay. See? It's actually not a true punish. So, essentially as Belmont, if you misspace your F tilt on Rob's shield, your best option is probably going to be putting up shield. So in fact, if Rob does something like that forward air on shield, you'll realistically be able to get up B out of shield. So realistically, in order to punish this, it becomes a mix-up. Rob could go for grab.
Prepare yourself.
So if Belmont thinks that Rob's going to go for something like a grab, he can jump away and do a landing forward air, for example. So I just have this play on recording. See, it beats roll in. Tries to go for grab, you get hit. So you can kind of just mess with these and be like, you know, what are my options here? So that will beat something like run up grab. But if Belmont misspaces the F tilt, he'll get hit by the forward air out of shield. So it's kind of just like the circle of it's a rock paper scissors basically. Even he hits from even if he gets hit from behind, he can catch the jump away with a back air or forward air, or sorry, nair. So you can kind of just mess around with things like this for every matchup and just kind of find out what is it okay to do in neutral at this range. So this is kind of just a project that I want to talk about. Some of the future content that I'm going to be making is going to be relevant to this or inspired by this. So again, if you're interested in me making any other guides for this project, if it's something that you'd want to check out, I mean, it kind of takes a bit of work to put together and buying all the parts and stuff. But again, I have no problem making any kind of guide to make a script for something like this. Or if there's just any other kind of content in general you'd like to see, let me know in the comments below. So nice. So glad to be back on YouTube again for the new year. Like, subscribe, most of all, stay salty, and hope you have a good weekend.